Middle-earth: Shadow of War, a game that dares to ask the question, what if you got to build up an army in the middle of hostile territory while in a war? Shadow of War was a game that I slept on for a long time. I thought it was just a funny game where you kill orcs, and it is in fact a funny game where you kill orcs, but it's also so much more than that. The Nemesis system alone makes it incredibly fun to play around with, but also offers a surprising amount of depth and occurrences that can take you off guard and surprise you at any moment. For a period of time, I remember being really obsessed with it, and I remember even playing it during some online D&D sessions, to which I got a bit yelled at because I wasn't entirely paying attention. But yeah, this is a game I'm pretty excited to review. With that out of the way, let's get started. So normally I talk about what happens upon making a new game, the game's story, or the tutorial to start with. But I'll be honest, the game doesn't really get fun until you can dominate captains, and that's like a decent portion into the game, and I honestly dropped the game before getting there because I wasn't having as much fun. I mean, yeah, I got to mess around with the Nemesis system, but I was just killing orcs and dying. So I think I'll just kinda explain the gameplay mechanics and the Nemesis system from what I understand. First of all, I have to introduce Talion, the character you play as. Since Shadow of War is a sequel, they don't really spend any time introducing him in the game since you should already know him, but at the same time, the game is completely comprehensible without playing the first game, in my opinion as someone who hasn't yet played the first game. Anyways, in the main game, while you may be able to choose skins, you don't really customize your character, and in terms of the story, you're always Talion, so there is no character customization. Which of course means no heterochromia. Anyways, moving forward directly into movement, I realize I've never really talked about movement in my reviews before, but movement is pretty, I'd say, important in Shadow of War. Important in the way that there's a decent amount of stealth in this game, and movement in terms of stealth is important. And I'd say all the movement feels great. You can climb up pretty much anything, and honestly you should. The way you jump from platform to platform is programmed in the way that it will try to adjust your movement so that you'll easily grab onto a nearby platform when jumping. You can easily sneak and go silently without being too slow, and you sprint relatively fast, and can go even faster if you use your scroll wheel to consume focus, a concept which I'll explain later. Moving straight on to stealth, the stealth mechanics are pretty good. Stealth isn't essential and it's a pretty forgiving system. You can sneak with shift or you'll auto-sneak if you go into some foliage, and while it does slow you down, it doesn't slow you down too much. You have a variety of stealthy options at your disposal, such as straight up stealth kills, shadow strikes, which I'm not sure if that's technically stealth, which will take you straight to your target, and a variety of remote traps based on your environment. It's fairly easy to get back into stealth too, as you can usually find somewhere to hide and lose any attention on you. Combat is a majority of the gameplay loop, mainly against captains, which are stronger orcs than the normal grunts. I'll talk about captains more later. There's a lot of variety in how you can play and different builds you can do with the freedom and the bonuses equipment provides, and the different options you can get from leveling up your skills. Your basic skills are simply swinging your sword, holding down the basic attack for a glaive swing, and the bow. You can also dodge and stun your enemy as well, and when prompted you can also block and parry blows. When an enemy is downed, you can finish them off too. Now I'll explain Focus and then Might. Focus and Might are similar in that they're bars that fill up and are used for abilities. Focus is located right above the amount of arrows left for your bow, and Might is located right above your minimap. Focus is used to slow down time when you're aiming with your bow, used to sprint even faster, and also used for chain kill abilities. It recovers over time. Might is used to perform executions, use an AoE called Elven Light, insta-dominate a grunt or a broken captain, perform an even stronger bow shot, and to raise the dead. Might is regained by hitting enemies while not getting hit yourself. Do note that not all of these abilities are available at the beginning of the game and are unlocked over time. Equipment is varied in the way that while they all offer a flat increase to certain stats, the higher rarity equipment offers certain other abilities that usually need to be unlocked via challenges. Mixing and matching different pieces of equipment can help you find the build that you like playing the most. Skills are unlocked as you level up, and what you get at any moment is dependent on what you feel like spending your skill points on. Each skill has a little modifier that you can unlock separately, but you can only use one of them, which also adds variation and helps you find what you want in a build. Now that those basics are out of the way, let's start talking about captains and the Nemesis system. The Nemesis system is the main draw of Shadow of War and its predecessor, Shadow of Mordor. The Nemesis system is kind of like this randomly generated active hierarchy of orcs that evolves and changes over time as you play. It goes from as simple as simply replacing a captain you killed to choosing an orc that you had previously killed that came back to life and then recruited to betray you randomly out of the blue. Before getting on how a captain works in the Nemesis system, let's explain what a captain is first. A captain is an orc that's a cut above the rest and earned their spot there. They have varying abilities, weaknesses, and immunities, which you find out by interrogating worms, and a huge variety of different personalities and titles. Most of them hate you, which is expected, but sometimes you come across that guy that just either kind of really annoys you relentlessly and you hate, or a guy that you just kind of really like. One of the most interesting things that can happen is that some completely random schmuck can come kill you and then become a captain from that feat. Normally when you go about killing captains, you find them out in the wild, you draw them out, or you ambush them on whatever mission they're on, which can include messing or even executing another captain. Sometimes captains come and ambush you, including when you've just gathered intel on them. Sometimes they appear in defense of another orc you're fighting. Honestly, a whole lot of things can happen, and that's honestly fun. Sometimes, since orcs are very resilient, they can even come back from the dead, but usually only if you haven't decapitated them, and even if you have decapitated them, there's still a chance that they can come back anyway. In terms of captains, there's also war chiefs and the overlord. The main objective in each region of the game is to overthrow the overlord of said region. The overlord is at the top. The war chiefs are his closest confidants, which admittedly the overlord can still choose to execute, so perhaps not that close, and are right below him. They generally have bodyguards, the overlord can have bodyguards too, and don't appear on the map at all, and have to be drawn out to make taking the fortress where the overlord lies easier. When you confront the overlord, you go to take the place by storm and start a complete siege, starting with a rousing speech from the overlord to their troops firstly, and a rousing speech from yourself to your troops, I'll cover how you get troops in a moment, before you declare the charge. After fighting your way through capturing checkpoints, which would be guarded by any war chiefs you hadn't taken out prior, or sabotaged by spies who would infiltrate the Overlord's war chiefs, you go to confront the Overlord one-on-one. Except it's not one-on-one, and the Overlord will have some general grunts with him, and any bodyguards if he has them. Fortunately, you can have a spy infiltrate the Overlord's bodyguards. Same for war chief's bodyguards as well. Now you may be asking, you can have an army? Spies? How? Well, let's get to the other half of the Nemesis system. Domination. Just about any orc you can see can be dominated to become your ally. This includes captains as well, as long as they are not higher level than you or possess the trait Iron Will. If a captain is higher level than you can remedy that by shaming them, which will brand them, lower their level, and force them to retreat. Shaming has a chance of the person either getting stronger instead, or causing them to go deranged. Deranged orcs can have a variety of things happen to their minds, most pretty bad for them. But what happens when an orc goes deranged can also vary depending on their title/personality. Anyways, as you build up your army of captains, you can have them do a variety of things for you, such as sending them to kill other captains, ambush another captain's mission, fight in a duel to either become a war chief's bodyguard, or even the overlord's bodyguard, or even have them be your bodyguard. You don't need to have them duel anyone to be your bodyguard. Having a bodyguard is nice because it gives them a chance to come in and kill whatever orc was about to kill you, and also allows you to summon them if you feel like you're a bit overwhelmed. Aside from tasks you put them up to, your captains will also undergo missions themselves without any input from you if left alone. There's also a variety of things that can just happen randomly. I've mentioned the ambushes before, but you can also get betrayed out of the blue by one of your captains, and there's also a chance for them to gain Iron Will and resist your attempts at getting them back on your side. You can also be betrayed by several of your captains at once. Shipmate captain can remove Iron Will, but it also chances that you derange that captain and leaves a brand on their face. I've also had a captain give me a gift before in the form of a common grunt that happens to be carrying a valuable item. Sometimes it's the small things that are nice. With all that said, would I recommend Middle-earth: Shadow of War? Yes! For the Nemesis system alone, I'd recommend this game, just because it's so fun to play around in and see what just ends up happening. It is why I ended up buying the game in the first place, after all. It adds so much variance and replayability, and you can just kind of reach endgame and stay around there forever. But I ended up restarting recently to relive the glamour of going around and conquering all the regions again. Shadow of War is just a game I never ended up uninstalling, even if it's been a while since I played it, since I know I'll have fun when I go back to it. So yeah, definitely give the game a try if it seems like something you'd want to play. If you found the review enjoyable, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd leave a like, and maybe a comment if you feel so inclined. Perhaps if there's a game you'd be interested in me reviewing. And if you want to see more, it'd be really rad if you could subscribe. But once again, thank you. See ya!